All of you, whether you're in your homes, whether you're driving in your cars, or you're on social media pages and so on, to this what promises to be a very, very exciting Wednesday Palaver. Today we're going to be looking at what has been called military brutalities in Ashaiman. There have been all kinds of views, all kinds of facts, and so on. And we want today to bring to you the security expert, Adib Saani, and he's going to try and take us through all that happened in Ashaiman so that all of us can make our minds about what happened in Ashaiman. So without much ado, I'd like all of us to give a very, very warm welcome to Adib Saani, the security expert. Please come to the microphone.
Thank you so much. It's another day. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Like I always say, Pan-African TV is my second home. Mr. Pratt is my father. You are my comrades, and it's always refreshing seeing you. The issue of Ashaiman, Ashaiman is an urban slum, and just like any urban slum, it comes with its socio-economic and geopolitical deficits. Ashaiman is not different from the other urban slums we have, not just in Ghana, but outside of Ghana, and the security challenges that culminate because of those social and economic deficits. And so for some of us, it is not surprising that day in, day out, we receive news about, criminality and, all other forms of crime in that area, just as we have it in other inner cities. Not too long ago, I got a call from someone I provided GPS tracking service. According to him, they had stolen his motorbike on which we had the GPS tracker. And he was a security man somewhere around East Legon. But when we checked, we found out that the motorbike was somewhere deep inside Ashaiman. So that should tell you some of the criminals, they stay there, they move out to go engage in all sorts of crimes, and return to their base. But that notwithstanding, it is instructive to note that those living in Ashaiman don't live there willingly. They wish they were at East Legon or airports. They are Ghanaians, just like any one of us. But there are differences within the societal setup. So you would have some living at airport residential, you would have some living at Kwesi, and you would have some living at Ashaiman, Nima, etc. And so we woke up to the news, a rather rainy morning, that soldiers had decided to take matters into their own hands to go after the killers of a comrade who died at Ashaiman. We saw the videos making rounds on social media and, of course, traditional media. I was on one TV network just before my interview. They had played a report, and most shockingly, the reporter showed us a water bottle, an empty one, that was filled with water from the gutter, which was given to those persons brutalized to drink. Others were asked to walk on their hands, whilst the other person is holding their legs. Others were beaten. There's this story about a bus carrying workers. They were asked to all disembark, and they were brutalized. In all, we understand about 184 persons were brutalized and detained by the military. The act generally, I find it quite horrendous. It is very inconsistent with our democratic values, because it is not the work of the military to engage in interior matters. It's quite straightforward. Interior is meant for the police. Defense is for the military. But sometimes you see the police and the military going on joint operations and all that. But if it has to do with interior, it is the police that takes the lead and not the military. And I mean, the law is quite straightforward about that. We have the Police Service Act 350 that talks about the primary function of the police, which is to is stipulated in Section 1 of the Police Service Act 1970, Act 350. It states, among others, that it shall be the duties of the police force to prevent and detect crime, to apprehend offenders, and to maintain public order and safety of persons and properties. So quite obviously, the killing of the said soldier falls within the ambit of, the purview of the police service. Unfortunately, the military decided to take matters into their own hands. And I find that action also very tantamount to mob mentality, because those who killed the soldier in the first place didn't believe in the rule of law. That is why they decided to take matters into their own hands to kill a fellow human. Because if they had believed in the law, they wouldn't have done so. So for the military to also decide to take matters into their own hands and arrogate themselves powers that doesn't appear anywhere in our jurisprudence, and decide to go what they did, it doesn't make them different from those who killed the soldier in the first place. That's why, I didn't hesitate. I didn't mince words in condemning, in no uncertain terms, the actions of the military. It is also important to understand that the military, Ghana's military, is one of the most respected institutions in the country. Not just even in Ghana, but beyond the country. We are one of the most respected. We've served in many hotspots across the globe since independence, as far as Lebanon. We served in the Balkans, in Kosovo. We served in Cambodia. The Iran-Iraq war were involved. We served there under the UN mission. We served in Congo since the 1960s, and we are still there. We served in Rwanda during the genocide, when every country left Rwanda. The Ghanaian contingent was still there under the UN. In fact, Romeo Dallaire, he is the UN commander, the contingent on the ground during the Rwandan genocide. In his book titled Shake Hands with the Devil, he mentioned on several occasions the efforts of the Ghanaian contingent. In fact, his deputy was Kuku Anyidohu's father. I've had the opportunity to meet him during Kofi Annan of blessed memory, during his funeral. And Liberia, when things went haywire, Ghana served the first ECOMOG commanding officer, Arnold Kwenu, is Ghanaian. Sierra Leone, and so many other countries. So that puts us there, within the international peacekeeping stratum. But for the military to all of a sudden, especially those young officers filled with adrenaline, take matters into their own hands, only for us to get to know later that they had received orders from above. For some of us, we knew instantly this couldn't have been done by some rogue elements within the military. The galvanization of military hardware that made it almost look like we're at war, as if it was a major counter-terrorism operation in the name of what? Looking for the killers of a soldier. As a criminology expert, I do know that usually those responsible for such killings leave the area. When you go, you don't get any one of them. And so even during my interviews, I indicated that they should mark it where water won't touch. None of the 184 persons who were detained by the military would be cited for the killing. Today, here we are. The police has made some arrests. None of those arrested by the police was apprehended by the military. What does it tell us? Innocent people. And to make matters worse, the most scandalous part of it, the most horrendous, that is even more scandalous than the action itself, is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, his silence on this whole matter. He had a unique opportunity to speak to the matter during his State of the Nation address, in which he touched on almost every aspect of the country. But the issue that had made news headlines, everybody was talking about it. It was a major headline story on Pan-African TV and so many other media houses. We're all talking about it. We all saw the pictures, the videos on social media everywhere. Yet, the father of the nation, who claims to care for his children, had that opportunity. In fact, the father who is quick to write about George Floyd and other issues that doesn't really concern us directly, was quiet on the issue of the Ashaiman incident. I find it unfortunate, and the people of not just Ashaiman but Ghana deserve an apology for that major blip. But that notwithstanding, I've indicated that the people just don't need an apology. Someone somewhere would have to be held accountable for this action. And I've also said that if Ghana were a serious country, certain persons such as the Deputy Defense Minister shouldn't be at post at this time. His arrogant posture, unapologetic to what had happened, we are not going to apologize. And it was even exacerbated by the statement that came from the military. So to speak, confirming and appear to be okay with what had happened, and mentioned that, yes, they agreed there were some excesses. I think that added insult to injury. And I'm not surprised that later they took it off their social media handles because they realized that it was a major PR disaster. When there was a train disaster recently, a train derailed and there was a disaster in Greece, the minister for that sector, the transport minister, without even investigations carried out, resigned. Because it has something to do with the sector, and there was a major issue that could point to a human error. He wasn't the driver of the train. He resigned. Some years ago, similar disaster, a ferry disaster in South Korea, just as it happened in an organized society, the minister for that sector resigned. See what we witnessed. And the minister is there, the deputy is there, and the deputy is even saying things to hurt the people more. So for me, there are three things that need to be done. One, an apology should be rendered to not just, like I indicated, the people at Ashaiman, but to the nation. Two, there's the need for compensation for those who were affected. And three, some people must be held to account for what had happened, because it is in the interest of the military to ensure that there is accountability. Because once the people see you as enemy, trust me, there's absolutely no way you can fulfill your mandate without the people, without you and I. We call the shots. We are the major decision makers. All right? But once we start rejecting the military, we become uncooperative, we feel they are doing things without our consent, then there's a problem. So it is in the interest of the military to ensure that some people are held to account for what had happened. And finally, it is an unfortunate incident, and I don't think any well-meaning Ghanaian would rationalize what had happened to the young soldier. But it is imagined that he wasn't lynched. The police statement is there. It's public information. It was a robbery gone wrong. they wanted his phone. So they stabbed him. I think it hit a major artery, and he lost a lot of blood and died. So the rationale behind all of these brutalities is even a no-no. There's no basis for that. All right? That is why it is critical to always think and rethink when you are angry before taking an action. Because my dad always used to say that even if you are right in a certain situation, the way you react will determine whether you keep that right or you lose it. The military might be right within the first instance, but the way they reacted obviously made them lose that right. I'm hoping that as time progresses, a lot more issues and more perspectives would come up so we get to Georgia. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, quite an interesting analysis of the situation. And it's now time for our studio audience to express themselves. But I'm sure all of you do know that we didn't start early today and time is fast spent. So for the studio audience, we're going to give you 1.5 minutes each. That means that you have to be concise. No beating about the bush, straight to the point, 1.5 minutes each, those of you who want to contribute. And then thereafter, we'll move very quickly to our social media platforms and take messages and comments from there. And that will be led by Abdul Haq. Abdul Haq would handle our social media for us today. So now it's time for the studio audience to speak out. Who wants to be the first? Hand up. Who wants to be the first? I see one hand up. I see 2, 3, 4. 4 hands up. Is that all? Okay. So here is what we do. We'll start 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 before we move to the social media pages. So first, gentlemen, please come to the microphone.
Yeah, thank you very much, and a very good presentation. And good evening, comrades, and good evening, viewers. What is there is that a confused father or confused parents, the mother will say, at a little provocation, the mother will say he will not give food to the children or he will beat the children. And the father will say he will either not give them pocket money or starve them. Early dawn to Independence Square, I think our leaders were confused. You see, even this morning, I had some young friends. They don't even have money for cocoa. And it is no crime going to take ideas from your opponents or your enemies. I remember when I was very young, during the Supreme Military Council time at Champon, soldiers were going on night patrols. From 12 o'clock, they will be patrolling on foot. And nobody comes out. Nobody comes out. And even criminals cannot come out. But today, look at what is happening in the town. Thieves, scammers, prostitutes, they are having nice sprays. If we can prevent these things by these things, I don't think some of these things will happen for us to be going through all these experiences. Thank you.
Good evening, fellow comrades. And we are very much thankful to Comrade Saani. My challenge now is why up to now the leadership or the government side of the country have not come forward to say something about these brutalities. And the latent effect is that it's having psychological effect on the country. Already we are getting around to elections time. So how will people feel now going out, since the military are now being used to brutalize people just unnecessarily in the country? I think the leadership will have to come to tell us something. Thank you very much.
Next.
Good evening, comrades. Well, fast forward, all has been said by Comrade Adib Saani, and I think going forward, there's a lot of people watching us, and the defense staffs, soldiers, they'll pick something else from it. But one question is this, sir. So if we foresee this situation the next time, what would be the best solution that you can lay out to them so that we will not encounter this situation? Because the military, for me, basically is one of the bodies I respect so much, because you said it in your speech, they go for UN peacekeeping and the rest of you. So fast forward, what is going to be that advice that you're going to give it out to them? Because I know much more. A lot of them are watching us right now. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, at this stage, we will be moving to our social media pages, but just one or two. It has been suggested that our leaders have not spoken on this matter. They have. I heard a minister, I'm sure all of you heard a minister, complaining that in the past we used to fear soldiers and policemen, that now we don't fear them anymore, and that this exercise is to teach us important lessons so that we shall begin to fear the military uniform. And I thought that that was a most unfortunate statement. A most unfortunate statement which betrays the colonial mentality of our leaders today. It was during the colonial era that the colonialists decided that if you are recruiting policemen, do not recruit them from the areas where they'll be doing the policing, because they will have family there and so on. They will not be able to be brutal enough. So they brought policemen from Nigeria who they thought had no relatives here and so on, so they could brutalize us well. Now, if this is the mentality of those who govern us today, then we are in deep trouble. Now, why should we fear soldiers and fear policemen if they are there truly to protect us? Should we fear them or should we love them? Our leaders say that we should fear them. And that's a huge problem. Now, I've heard one of the leaders, a deputy minister who spoke on one of the radio stations, actually say that, they would not condemn the act. And I've heard some of them say that we will not condemn the act because the soldiers are very happy with their capacity to beat people. If we allow them to beat people, they are very happy. So, I think that that's a major insult to soldiers. I know many soldiers who are as decent as people you can find anywhere. I know soldiers who are so very well educated. The soldiers are not different from the civilians in this country. They also feel hungry, they feel thirsty, they desire to send their children to good schools, live in better housing, and so on. The way to win soldiers is not to applaud the human rights violations that are imposed on them by a few officers. The way to please soldiers is to treat them also as human beings and to make sure that the escalating price of kenke is checked. It is not only civilians who eat kenke. Within 1 year, the price of kenke has gone up 300%. That's a concern for soldiers. If you want to win soldiers, do that. If you want to win over soldiers, make sure that the 37 military hospital functions and can prevent soldiers from dying, provide them with services and so on. But our leaders, they are so bankrupt, absolutely so bankrupt. They think that if you applaud soldiers who violate the rights of people, you can endear yourself to them. How can you applaud people who actually mix cow dung and give it to people to drink? How do you applaud people who, on suspicion of crime, make people wallow in mud? And once they wallow in mud, they are being caned and so on. You saw some of the injuries and so on. To a very large extent, our leaders should take full responsibility for what has happened. Why? Mobile phone snatching has gone up. Why? That's the testimony to the insecurity in the country. are we the people who are responsible for security? So if the security has failed to the extent that today mobile phone snatching has become a commonplace activity, who do you blame? The innocent civilians at Ashaiman who have no powers? Or those we pay so much money and put in four-wheel drives to protect us with security? Who do you blame? So if somebody has to be beaten for the poor security situation, is it the poor carpenter at Ashaiman or the Minister of Interior who has to be beaten? Give us a break. Now it's time to invite to the microphone our friend and comrade and brother Abdul Haq. Abdul Haq, you have 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Wow. Okay. So we'll be starting with our comments coming in from Facebook. Wow, we have a lot of comments today. Okay. So this is coming from Kwesi. It says, an interesting analysis from the security expert, Mr. Adib Saani. I share in the call of Mr. Saani for the resignation of the Deputy Minister for Defense for his unfortunate comments. Kwesi, a comrade from the Tamale Collective of SMG. Thank you for sharing. And this is coming from Dinah Wood. She says, returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night devoid of stars. Martin Luther King Jr., it is sad that our security services instead act on impulse rather than intelligence. Great submission by Mr. Adib Saani. Thank you for the introspection. Coming again from Kwesi, he says, thank you for the show. We are enjoying it here in Tamale. From Suleimana Abdurrahim, he says, now the suspected perpetrators of the heinous crime in Ashaiman are found. Can we now say that those who whip the innocent people should face the law? That's a question for you, Mr. Adib Saani. Okay, this is coming from Ibrahim. He says, great point, Comrade Kwesi. Their mentality indeed puts us in dire position, and we must be worried for our future with our current direction. Abdul Razak Mahama also says, we are live here on Wednesday Palaver, and we are enjoying the show. Thank you for the insight. Okay, so another one comes in and says, great presentation by Comrade Adib Saani, but I disagree with you when you say the military was right, but how they reacted made them lose that right. They were simply wrong and should swallow their pride and apologize, as part of the three things you mentioned, which I agreed with. The government is a major player in this issue. I'd be happy if you touch more on that. Okay, so I'll switch to our WhatsApp and take some messages from there also. Okay, great. This is coming from Comrade Sena. He says, it's good to see the faces of comrades present at Wednesday Palaver today, and we are watching you live. Keep the vim up. And hello to Comrade Kwesi Pratt. Okay, he hears that. This is also coming from Comrade Roger. He says, nice presentation. I'm enjoying the show. Okay, this is coming from Comrade Precious. He says, thank you for the insights, and we are learning more every day. Okay, so this also says, great submission, comrade. We always enjoy the show. Wednesday Palaver is a great show to always stay put with. Okay, so we have coming from Comrade Biri Emmanuel. He says, thank you, Comrade Kwesi Pratt, for that analysis. I always enjoy your point of view. Kudos. Okay. Coming from Comrade Adam. He says, I see you, Comrade Blaze. Okay, so let me move to our text messages. Yeah, I still have a few more minutes. Okay, so we have Kenneth here saying, I'm watching you from Dodowa. Great submission, Comrade Adib Saani. And here he says, my name is Bright from Tamale. Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Adib Saani. And this says, hello, you are doing a good job. Please, next time, bring in more of the MPP people to come and speak, to come and say what they are defending on TV. Okay, this is not very clear. We have Comrade Jessica also here saying, I love this show very much, and I can't wait for the next session next week. Okay, stay put. And we have a lot of other great shows. You can stay put on Pan-African TV, and you won't be disappointed. My name is Brainy Rich from Volta region. You guys are doing a great work. I say kudos to the station. Okay. Hello, Pan-African TV. Watching you live from Sefwi Asafo Tank. Okay. Thank you for the insights. We are learning a lot every day as we tune into Pan-African TV. Okay, thank you for that message also. Okay, good evening, Pan-African TV. The Palaver show is always the best. Today we are getting a lot of positive comments. Thank you, comrades, for watching. I think that's what we have so far. So, thank you, comrades.
Well, at this stage, we'd like to invite Mr. Adib Saani to respond to all the messages from the studio audience, from the different social media platforms and so on. And unfortunately, you have 9 minutes to do that. So, sir, you're welcome to the microphone.
Okay, thank you. There was a question about what advice I have for the military. It's quite straightforward. Do not take commands that is detrimental to our democracy. As simple as that. Do not take commands that is detrimental to our democracy. There was also another opinion on how the military is used lately. You know, we seem to be metamorphosing the military into the police, and it's particularly commonplace this time around, especially when you see the military following some public officials, including the EC chair everywhere. I mean, I have expressed my opinions in the past about the fact that we are gradually civilianizing the military. We are reducing the military into more like, you know, an interior institution. And that is why lately, you know, you would realize that the respect people had for the military seemed to be coming down just because of the way we are using the military, and we need to watch out. As a result, a lot of these soldiers, I mean, in the past, they used to be very constricted to the barracks. You see them out if they have, you know, service to render to the people. But these days, any little thing, you see the military come out in their numbers. We all saw what happened in Wa. Just because a soldier had his phone stolen, they held the whole town to ransom. You know, Ejura, we saw what happened, and so many other examples can be cited. And I think about some few months ago, there was a similar swoop by the military on some foreigners who were engaged in illegal mining, and some arrests were made. They were brought to Accra and taken to the immigration headquarters, and my sources from there, you know, indicated that they were surprised. You didn't involve us. It has to do with foreigners. and the immigration should have been involved. So on what basis are you arresting them? Is it in your position to check or to confirm whether someone is a foreigner or a Ghanaian? How do you know? So the people were left there. Okay, what do we do with them? We're not part of it in the first place. So we need to watch out some of these excesses. And when I said the military was right, I didn't mean they were right going out to do what they did. It's an absolute no-no. Rather, what I meant to suggest is they were in that position where they lost one of their own, okay? And so they needed to be circumspect in the way they react or respond. Unfortunately, they responded in a rather dastardly, cowardly manner that should be condemned by all well-meaning Ghanaians. And Mr. Pratt couldn't even have said it any better. There are fine military men who are doing great things for the country. I remember some time ago, I was with a senior military officer. We had parked at the airport. Someone came to park right behind us, knowing full well that if he is not around, there's absolutely no way we can move. We waited for about an hour, and he was calm. Just that he wasn't in military uniform. He was in a civilian clothing. So when this man finally came out, he had an arrogant posture. So I even got angry. I wanted to react, And the military, no, Adib, let him take his trouble away. He, being a soldier, was actually holding me and asking me to let the person take his trouble away. We are fine military men. No denying that fact. Who would sacrifice limbs and their heads to protect the country. Unfortunately, we have this new crop, the buga kind of people who feel that the only way out of certain situations is to use force. That is unfortunate. Even when you look at the 9 pillar principles of modern day policing, that forms the very basis of civil security relations. It says that the more force you use in certain situations, the less you're bound to have the people cooperate with you. Okay? We need to harness the relationship between the security agencies and the civilian population. And I would repeat, without us, they can't do their work. But that notwithstanding, let me also use this opportunity to appeal to Ghanaians to try as much as they can to cooperate with the security services. We do know some of these criminals live amongst us. They are our friends, we are related to them and all that. If you have any reasonable suspicion about something that is going on in your community, please do not hesitate to reach out to the appropriate authorities, because it is also in our interest to ensure that our communities are safe. And let me use this opportunity to mention the police number to call, 18555. 18555. I mean, let us uphold diligently the values that is enshrined in our constitution, our democracy, the belief in the rule of law, and never ever take matters into our own hands. On this occasion, I wish to express my appreciation to you again, comrades, Mr. Pratt, Pan-African TV, for this unique opportunity. Thank you so much.
Well, Mr. Saani could not use all his 9 minutes, so we have a few minutes left. And I'd like us to spend these few minutes just looking at some interesting facts. The military, after this operation, announced that they had arrested about 180 people. None of the 120 people arrested has been found to be involved in the killing of the soldier. And this is an important fact. What does this mean? The soldiers went there shooting, beating, forcing people to drink their cow dung and so on. And the effort yielded nothing. No suspect could be found. The police went in without firing a weapon, without beating anybody, using intelligence, and they ended up arresting 6 people. 2 of them were directly involved in the phone snatching attempt. 4 of them were supposed to have aided in the sale of the iPhone which was taken from the soldier. That's all. These are important facts. Now, in the beginning, we were told that the soldier was killed in full uniform. And questions were raised about why we civilians are not afraid of military uniform and so on. It turns out that that is also false. The soldier was not in military uniform. His military uniform was in his bag. He was wearing a camouflage shorts. And in Ghana, everybody wears camouflage shorts. So he could not have been identified as a soldier. The earlier narrative was false. And then we are told that he was lynched by a mob. Of course, the police statement also makes that a complete lie, and so on. And all the many other stories we've been told. We're told that he was lynched because he was competing with somebody for his girlfriend. It turns out that that is also completely false, and so on. But you know, for me, the most important thing is that you hear our leaders, our political leaders, every now and then telling us that coup d'etats are not good. We should not have coup d'etats. That coup d'etats violate the constitution. They are the same people supporting these acts in Ashaiman. And there's no difference between what happened in Ashaiman and a coup d'etat. They are all acts of impunity. They are all acts in violation of the constitution. And if you encourage what happened in Ashaiman, you might as well encourage coup d'etats. If coup d'etats are no good, what happened in Ashaiman cannot also be good. Now, for those of you who are watching us, I can only extend our pleasure to all of you. I can only extend our greetings to all of you. This program is what it has become because of you, because you watch us, because you send us messages, because you watch us on Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. In fact, last week, according to our trackers, we had close to 40,000 views. That's a huge figure. For any program watched by 40,000 people, that's a huge figure. And that excludes those who are watching on live television. We'd like to thank all of you very, very much for watching this program, for being a part of this program. I would like to remind you also that please keep your dial on Pan-African television. Keep your dial on Pan-African television because as you do know, we bring you the best in news, bring you the best in current affairs, best in sports, best in entertainment, and what else. Stay with Pan-African television and enjoy the best in television. See you all again next week. Bye-bye.